Well, hey all, you are continuing to send in questions about liberals and conservatives and what they believe in the government and all that stuff. So I'm going to make another video, and I think this one will be a lot shorter than the first one. This is at least my second video, and if you keep asking questions, I'll keep answering questions in this series. So I'm going to do this relatively quickly. I'm hoping to get it out there before today's assignment drops so I can include it all together. So here you go. First question that somebody asked is it's a personal question about me, and that is, what political party are you in? And the answer is, I'm not an official member of either party, but most people aren't. For most of my life, excuse me, I voted Republican, pretty much through and through. But I would say in recent days, I'm a lot more moderate than I used to be. What that means is I'm somewhere in the middle. On some issues, I would agree with Democrats a little bit more. On some issues, I'd agree with Republicans a little bit more. And honestly, I think, of course I'm going to say it because I'm biased, right? But I think that's not a bad place to be, because I think it's important that we think about every single issue separately instead of just being like, somebody else says this, I'm going to agree with them. Nobody's right 100% of the time, even me. We're just not. So I think it's good to think individually about this. And if you're always agreeing with a particular party, maybe be like, wait, am I thinking freely or am I just following what other people say? And so that would be my pitch for being more independent. Anyway, somebody else says, is there a way that I can get a copy of the beliefs sketch that you showed us in the notes video? Yeah, I really like that sketch. I don't think it's perfect, and it's actually, there's some controversy about it online. I will put a link both in the description and probably also in the Google Classroom link where you found this. I think if it's not in one, check the other one. But it's pretty good. It's worth looking over, and maybe that'll actually raise some more questions. I think it's cool. Okay. What happened to other political parties like the Whigs and the Know-Nothings? So this is a good question. What ultimately happens to parties like those is that over time, maybe some of the issues that they're promoting are less favorable. Like the Know-Nothings were a political party that their big thing was, we don't want immigrants, but that's not popular. And so when you ask us what our viewpoints are, we'll say, I know nothing, right? That was the idea of the Know-Nothings. This is back in the mid to late 1800s. So what happens is, over time, some of those issues either fall out of favor or they get taken up by other political parties. So maybe if the Republicans take on that particular view or the Democrats take on that view, then why would I vote for a third party that's not winning any elections when I could vote for a major party that has similar beliefs about similar issues and have kind of the same results? So that's basically what happens. Some of the issues fall out of favor while other parties rise because of a particular issue. And if not enough people are in a two-party system, if you're in a third party and you realize you're losing election after election after election, you got to do something different. And usually that means hanging out with these other guys. Even remember the Republican Party, we talked about this. The Republican Party is a combination of the people who split away from the Democratic Party because of some of the issues regarding the abolition of slavery and should it spread into the territories, and the I totally forgot it. That's not good. The party that was against that. Son of a gun. It's gone. I'll find it. It'll come to me in a second, but it's not at the moment. It happens to me too, so you're okay. But even there was the third party that wasn't winning any elections, and it just said, ooh, here's our opportunity. Let's merge with somebody else. So in a two-party system, you kind of have to do that in order to continue to get votes. Let's see. Somebody says, how do progressives play into the scale? Are solid liberals considered progressives? And I would say that, yeah. Progressives typically say, let's get the government more involved in various issues in society. And that is very much a liberal idea. Okay. Conservatives tend to say, let's keep the government out of this stuff as much as possible. Most of the time, there are some exceptions. Let's have the government not get involved. See, even saying that, it gets so convoluted because that's how it's pitched. But if you think about abortion, what is abortion? It's or what is saying we can't have abortion? Well, that's the government inserting itself into that decision. What is saying that gay marriage isn't legal? Well, that's the government inserting itself into that decision. Okay, so it's not really fair to say that Republicans or conservatives always want to keep government out of society. But if we're saying let's have more government show up to take care of an issue, like it initially showed up because of there were no unions that were legal, the food supply, like the meat that we talked about, meat packing and all that, was just gross and not regulated. We needed medicine regulation. People are going around selling all these things as miracle cures for all kinds of stuff. And so the progressives said, let's have an organization, the Food and Drug Administration, that's a government agency that their job is to take care of that stuff. So anyway, all that to say, yes, if somebody says they're a progressive, what they're saying is I would fall on the liberal side of the spectrum on most issues. Okay. So there you go. Okay. Why do I need to know about what's going on in the government? That's a really good question. A lot of people say I don't care, but here's the thing, right? And this is going to vary. Your mileage is going to be very different from one person to the next. All of us, really all we want to do is to live our lives the way that we see fit without other people coming along and messing it up, right? I want to go out and, for some of you it would be fish or hunt, or some of you would say play video games. Some of you would say I just want to listen to music or play music, or I just want to go to church, right? But when you do that, so let's say you're hunting. Okay, so what kind of guns should you be allowed to have? Just any old thing? Maybe. Other people would say, yeah, there are some kind of guns we don't want because as soon as you open the door to that, now you have, if somebody's super angry, they're going to use it against somebody else and you can kill more people. Some people would say, well, good, go to church, but your religious beliefs actually infringe on my personal freedoms, right? And so that's a problem. Other people would say, no, your personal freedoms and telling me that I can't have my religious beliefs, that's the problem. So anytime you're just trying to live your life the way you want to, it has some consequences, okay? Because there's a chance that somebody else is going to disagree with you or take issue with you. And so government is significant because it often is the entity that solves those problems, right? Or I shouldn't say solves, that deals with those problems and makes a decision. On top of that, the government is also supposed to be the agency that makes sure that the economy is moving along well. Okay, like right now, the question of do we force people to stay locked in their homes or do we open up the economy and let people go back to work, even though it might expose more people to the coronavirus? That's a tough question. Should we be trading with China all the time, even though there are some human rights violations questions? I don't know. So all these questions ultimately go back to the government in some way, shape, or form. Even if you say, I think the government should stay out of all these things and just stay in this particular lane, that's an issue of government, okay? So in order for you to live your life peaceably, you probably want to get at least a knowledge of what the government's doing so you know who to vote for, because at some point it's going to come along and say, we're going to tax you more, we're not going to let you get the kind of gun you want, you have to get this certain sort of license in order to fish where you want. Maybe we're going to tell your church that they can't do this thing, or we're going to tell churches they can do this thing, and that really bothers you. Government is mixed into all that, and that would be my answer. Okay. I think it's the last question. Somebody says, I'd like to know more about the social views of liberals and conservatives. All right. So I just found a list of social views because that can encompass like everything. So I'll just kind of go down this list and we'll talk about it. As far as like same-sex marriage goes, or any of those issues about maybe greater rights for LGBTQ folks, conservatives would tend to say we don't need to do more to protect these people typically, because they're already protected under certain acts, and there are already laws against all kinds of different crimes that might be committed against them. And in addition, they would say, well, let's not have like same-sex marriage, even though that's kind of an issue that's sort of gone because it's legal. The Supreme Court legalized it, I think, 2015. And so that's kind of not really an issue anymore, although they typically would say, well, if we could, we'd like to undo it. Okay. And the reason for that is they're very socially conservative, and not just socially, but religiously conservative. So they're going to often go back to, let's take a literal interpretation of the Bible and let's apply it to this societal issue. Okay, and so you're going to get issues like that. Let's see here. Another issue, immigrant populations. you're typically going to find that conservatives are less. Well, when we're talking about illegal immigration, nobody's in favor of illegal immigration, but conservatives are often saying we need to take more stringent steps to stop it. Okay, so for example, the wall, conservatives would say, let's build the wall. And liberals would say, no, that's way too extreme. There are other ways to deal with this. Okay. There conservatives, and again, it's hard to say this, conservatives are not a monolithic group. In other words, you can't say, oh, they're conservative, so they believe this thing. Okay. There's a wide range, but often conservatives say, let's not have so much immigration because that can actually weaken us. Let's make sure we're building up our people first and foremost. Okay. If we're talking about like a national language, you're more likely to find conservatives who would say, yes, we should have a national language, which, by the way, we don't. There is no national language in the United States. It's not English. There is none. Okay. Yeah. So there you go. Anytime you're talking about government regulation, like should we make it, should we increase taxes? Liberals are typically going to say, yeah, we got to increase taxes on the rich people and on businesses so we can help provide more for the middle class and the lower class. Conservatives would tend to say, yeah, but when you tax rich people and businesses, that actually hurts the economy because that's money they don't have to grow the economy further. Okay. Both make sense, frankly. So you got to balance the two. Liberals would say that bigger government and more services are good. So let's build up some of these, whether it's the school lunch program, whether it's welfare or Social Security or Medicaid or health insurance. Liberals are typically going to say, yeah, there are too many people that can't get health insurance, so let's just let the government deal with it. We'll give people what they need. Okay. There you go. Environmental laws. Typically, liberals are going to say, yeah, we got to have more laws to protect the environment. And conservatives are going to say that's more regulation. It's going to hurt business growth. And liberals go back and say, yeah, but in 100 years, if, the temperature's gone up and the polar ice caps have melted and, cities are flooding, what kind of economy do you have then? Okay. So those are some of the issues. If you have other specific questions that you want information about regarding what do liberals believe about this or conservatives, I am happy to talk to you about that. I'll just tell you this. I try to be very middle of the road. I try to be fair on both sides because you have to look at both sides in order to come to a good understanding of an actual issue. Okay. Is it really hard to do that? Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, there it is. Hopefully that's helpful. If you have more questions, throw them down in the Google form below or in the comments, and I will get to them as quick as I can. I love having these discussions with you. I hope you guys are enjoying them too. Talk to you soon.